business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Barbara, would you please come forward and lead us?
I please stand and follow me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you, Barbara. Item 3A is not going to happen tonight, so we will move to item 3B, proclaiming November 1st, 2015 as Extra Mile Day and recognizing volunteers Brad Barker, Megan Worthen, Tracy and Sherry Michaelis, Bill Hogue, and Heroes West Jordan Middle School Principal Dixie Garrison, Assistant Principal Eric Price, Special Ed Teacher Lucia Evans, and West Jordan Police Resource Officer Detective David Wood. If the council will please come down, Kim's got a presentation. Queen Wells.
Each year, the City of West Jordan joins with other cities across the country to recognize individuals who create positive change in our community through their extra mile efforts in volunteerism and service. We recognize that one good deed makes a difference. West Jordan is once again participating in this nationwide movement and has proclaimed November 1st, 2015 as Extra Mile Day. So now we have a few individuals that we'd like to present. Brad Barker, if you'd please come up. As a member of the West Jordan Exchange Club, Brad Barker continually gives back to the community. His Dutch oven cobbler has helped raise thousands of dollars at city events like the Western Stampede Rodeo and Demolition Derby. These proceeds go toward preventing child abuse. Brad is generous with his time and has sacrificed more than a little sleep, getting Dutch oven meals cooking in time to be featured on the morning news to promote child abuse prevention. Thanks for your help in preventing this evil. Megan Worthen, if you'll please come up. The 11-year-old Megan Worthen has been volunteering since she was 6 years old. She has made many furry friends in the process as she has helped the animal shelter with donations. She even enlisted the help of her third grade class one year and made some awesome dog toys that counted as an art project. She is once again soliciting donations of food and other supplies for the residents of the West Jordan Animal Shelter, and will be holding food drives on November 14th and December 11th. Last year, she collected over 1,000 items and $750 that benefited the shelter. Megan learned how to serve by her grandmother and her mother's examples and is proof that you can make a difference at any age. Bill Hogue. Bill Hogue has been a volunteer and police service member for over 5 years. He has logged over 2,100 hours of service and has received the Presidential Award several years running. Bill is always willing to assist with a variety of tasks, including criminal and non-criminal fingerprints, speed trailers, SWAT scenarios, Citizen Academy assignments, emergency crossing guard duty, and community fairs and events. Bill's volunteering spirit has benefited the police department, the city, and made the community a safer place to live and work. Thank you, Bill. Tracy and Sherry Michaelis. The city relies heavily on volunteers to help with the many tasks associated with city events. Tracy and Sherry have volunteered as ushers at our city events for over 10 years. And this is usually in some heat and on holidays, so not at convenient times. They also recruit family and friends to help. We appreciate their willingness to help people find their seats and exit the facility in a safe and efficient manner. Sometimes the situation can get a little tense, like the time the arena was shorted about 50 chairs and ticket holders were wondering why they had no seats. But Sherry and Tracy handle each patron with courtesy and a smile. Thank you. West Jordan Middle School Principal Dixie Garrison, Assistant Principal Eric Price, Special Ed Teacher Lucia Evans, and West Jordan Police Resource Officer Detective David Hood. On October 14th, as students were warming up during gym class at West Jordan Middle School, 14-year-old Skylar Nelson's heart stopped and he collapsed to the ground. Principal Dixie Garrison quickly arrived on scene and sent a radio call out to the office to dial 911. Vice Principal Eric Price and the school's resource officer, Detective David Hood, promptly began CPR while Special Ed Teacher Lucia Evans kept Skylar's airway open and monitored his vitals. Thankfully, Mr. Price had completed a refresher CPR course just 10 days earlier and knew exactly what to do. Their quick thinking saved Skylar's life. Skylar was born with a heart defect that caused his heart to stop. He recently underwent surgery to install a defibrillator to get his heart beating again should this happen. Thanks to your quick thinking, heroic action, and appropriate training, Skylar is expected to make a full recovery. Thank you. These are just a tiny sample of the many great people in our city who regularly go the extra mile to strengthen our community. The list is long. I regularly encounter people that do such great things, and they're not looking for recognition, but they deserve some, and I really appreciate their service. Thank you.
Communications. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On a positive note, you notice that all the shade trees that have appeared in the back of City Hall. Next spring, we'll be putting the flowering trees along with the new parking configuration. So you want to get moving on that, so these people would say that we're doing something back there instead of seeing all these tree trunks. So it should look a lot better than it did before. We're also going to be lighting the outside of City Hall and looking at the security of that lighting system. So you'll see City Hall from a great distance, hopefully. It'll really stand out. It should look pretty well. And the last thing is the chief is putting together a security plan for the City Hall, which will include cameras and different ways of doing things in the City Hall. So that's everything that's on City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Darian?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
David Oken.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, staff received a email of thanks to our staff who assisted the developer of the property at 27th West and 78 South. This developer is not known for being generous with thank yous, but staff stepped up and provided good service, and as you drive by, you'll see why. We also got some congratulations and thanks from some of the neighbors. Thank you.
Ryan Clegg.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Ryan.
The only thing we have tonight is we are, of course, moving forward with the audit. That continues and will continue for the next couple of weeks as we move forward. As the mayor saw yesterday, Marcus is actually here and working. So we're heading forward. We've had a little bit of struggle with getting our data to convert to their system as we went to the new chart of accounts and data, but we've worked that out and we're able to move forward. So, and that's all. Thank you.
Thanks. Wendell?
Yes, just two items. We wanted to give you an update on how the dumpster program is going. Several months ago, the council increased the number of dumpsters from 16 to 32. Prior to that increase, we were experiencing a 2 to 3 month scheduling delay. We're down to about 2 weeks out for weekends and 2 to 3 days for weekdays. I've checked though and made sure that all of the dumpsters are being used. So the program is going very well, and we appreciate your support there. Second thing is that here next week we're going to be closing 1825 West, which is this roadway just to the west of City Hall. We're going to be putting, or the contractor is going to be putting in 1 sewer lateral and 3 water laterals from the building that the county is building here. And so we have to close it at this road to the south, and the apartments and the bank will have access, but we've got to close it during the day. We'll plate it at night, so it'll be open during the night. That'll be for about 3 to 4 days. Just wanted you to know that.
Thanks. Chief McElreath?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Chief Diamond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just want to let you know that we will be starting a new police officer on Monday, and then another one on the following Monday, and then we already have slotted 1 more to start on the 7th of December. So that'll bring our staff up to where we're only short 2 people there, and we hope to have them scheduled and be able to start them on the 7th of December as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Councilmember Southworth?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take just a quick moment of a personal privilege to thank the public for their patience with me over the last 40 days. 25 of the last 40 days I've been on the road between the province of Alberta and the states of Maine, Nevada, and Arizona. And so at least one council meeting, I say at least one, it was one council meeting, the last one I missed, and I apologize for that. But I do know there have been several people trying to get a hold of me, and so anyway, I'm back, and I appreciate your patience. Happy to be serving.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As I brought up approximately a month or so ago, I'm still getting calls on the skunk problem. The one elderly lady called me. She had gone down to IFA and bought a trap. She trapped 4 skunks. In the meantime, while doing this, she got sprayed. She had heard that if you had tomato juice, it would kind of take the smell off. She did not have any, so she covered her body in ketchup. She then ended up in the hospital. The only people that will come and pick up these skunks charge $50 a skunk. This is an elderly lady, $200 for 4 skunks. And they're having a horrible time. It's on Redwood Road with this problem, and I don't know where to go with it. I don't know what to tell her to do. I know she can't afford $200 for 4 skunks, and we don't have the animal control to help her with that, and I didn't know if there were any other agencies that may help her with that, if anyone is aware.
I don't know, but I believe that there's a federal trapper in the state of Utah, and we need to contact and see if we can get a hold of them. So
Okay.
I'll check on that.
Thank you. And that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I was contacted by a resident this week with concerns about the new streetlights going in. Her understanding was she heard that we're going to be going to the LED streetlights, and we're using the Acorn style in some of the neighborhoods. And her understanding was that we were not using the lights that have the directional focus capability. When we were in council meeting probably 2 years ago or so, we had a conversation about the different types of lights. And even when we were talking about the Acorn lights, we were talking about making sure that we did have that directional capability so that the lights that are adjacent to residents' homes weren't flooding their bedrooms with a brighter light. I was wondering, Wendell, if you could confirm we're requiring the directional and not the unfocused?
Yes, there are directional. They actually shine down. That's what the LEDs do, is they shine directly down, and we can shade them if we need to. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. She said she spoke with a member of our staff and heard other information, so I'll chat with you about that after. The other thing I wanted to confirm, with our development specs for new developers coming in, do we specify that theirs need to be directional as well?
We're changing the specification so that all the new streetlights and other lights are going to be, well, all the arterial, collector, and residential are going to be LED. We'll be requiring that. So they will be directional as well.
Okay. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I have nothing tonight. We will now move to the citizens' comment portion of the agenda. I have had 3 sheets signed this evening. It appears like 2 of them are for the public hearing item 7B. The other one signed up to speak, Alexandra Ephraimo.
Mayor and Council, good evening. I hope everybody's counting their blessings. I went to a grocery store and how they say, well, how are you doing? And I said, well, I'm counting my blessings. And she looked at me and she said, what are they? I looked at her, I said, you have a job. You have 2 arms that move and 2 legs. So we take a lot of things for granted, but let's meditate for a minute. Please, ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faith. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we are about to undertake. Thank you. I still have a trouble with one of the council incumbent council members. Signs are being put up on UDOT property. UDOT, we're finding out we're not allowed to touch the sign, that only the person that is being negligent in putting up the sign should take down that sign. I've contacted the council person 6 weeks ago, and still the sign is up. So if that council person is doing something naughty, and to me I call it naughty, she knows that it is illegal to put that sign up there. So if she does something that's illegal, how about what other illegal things are going to happen? But anyway, I got in the mail a little card, and I resented it because I'm not for that candidate. And on the card, I was really interested. You know, they send out all these cards and everything, and it says, I have experience. Excuse me, this council member who has been incumbent to say, I have experience. In Webster's dictionary, my definition of experience is far more than a council member never offering a motion. Just say, yes, no, yes, no. That's not experience to me. But I've had a fun time. I've been campaigning. And I finally decided I was going to smile when I had put up the campaign sign. And I couldn't believe it. People smiled back. So after the election's over, I'm going to try to get some money to the scouts to start putting up signs and having them do a citizen saying, smile, you're in West Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on an item of your choice? Now would be the time. You'll be allowed 3 minutes on the subject of your choice. Please come forward. State your name and address, please.
I'm Michael Jones. My address is 1592 West Cornerstone Drive in South Jordan. I'm a member of the Jones family that owns the property out on the west side of West Jordan. I come to you to let you know that Ivory and Company in their Echo Ridge development, in the development that they're now currently developing, there on the north side of the property, there is a wash that goes down through that property. Now, it's not a matter of if the water from a significant rainstorm comes down through that wash, it's only a matter of when. And for the years that we've owned that property, I would say that the water will flow through that area anywhere from 7 to 10 years. The last time it did it was back in 2013 when it flooded the apartments there on the south side of the New Bingham Highway at about 6400 West. So I just want to put you on notice that you're aware, that you're going to be aware of the situation, and you don't come back to us. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else wishing to speak? I will close the citizens' comments and move to the consent calendar. Councilmember Nichols.
Move to approve consent calendar.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
The vote passes 4-0.
Public hearing item 7A. Receive public input and consider for approval Resolution 15-199, amending the general fund budget fiscal year 2015-2016. Ryan.
I will turn the time over to Eric Okerlund, our budget officer, for a small presentation.
Okay.
All right, we have here a summary or showing the bottom line impact to the 6 funds that we're proposing amendments to as they're shown in the resolution. As we look at the individual items that you've seen in the staff report, we have 3 basic categories of the changes that we're proposing. The first category is to move existing budget simply to a different program or account. These changes don't impact the bottom line. They're simply rearranging budget that you've already appropriated in the original budget. The second category is new appropriations, which would be covered by a revenue or a new funding source that would be cash received from some outside entity that would cover that increase in spending. And the third category is new appropriations to be funded by reserves. So with that brief overview, you've had the opportunity to look at the individual items. We'll entertain any questions that you might have.
Questions from council? I just have one question, Eric. By reserves, that means the surplus fund balance that's been projected as well, right?
Right. It's coming from fund balance that we have going into this year. Or, as you'll notice in this last parenthetical comment, including reductions in contributions to reserves, I think we have 1 or 2 items where before these amendments we were planning to contribute to reserves in that fund, and the amendment changes that to the other side of where we're going to be using some of those reserves rather than contributing to them. It's basically an accounting mechanism.
Thank you. Other questions from council? Looks like you're off the hook. All right, thanks. We'll open the public hearing portion of item 7A. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now would be the chance. You'll be allowed 3 minutes. Please come forward.
I'm Alexandra Efremo, 3735 Judd Circle. I know we've already voted on this general budget, but I just, for the record, I still want to keep repeating. I'm very upset about 5 of the council people raising their $750 a month stipend to $1,500. And earlier, I heard that we needed $200 for that woman with the skunks. I suggest that that council person donate $200 to that woman, because that council person will be making $1,500 a month, and I'm still against it. It should be $750. Thank goodness 2 of the council people did not vote for increasing their money. I know it's a lot of time, but if you're going to go in politics, you better go into politics loving politics and having no thin skin. But I'm still against that. I wish we would go back to $750. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, item 7A, and return to the council. Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
No.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
The vote passes 4-1.
Public hearing item 7B. Receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 15-31, ratification of a future land use map amendment for 5.01 acres of very low density residential designation to low density residential designation and rezone from RR1D rural residential 1 acre lots to R112F single family residential 12,000 square foot lot. 7481 South, 5490 West. Buller Properties. Randy Buller, applicant. David?
Yes, Larry Gardner will give a short presentation on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mr. Buller owns this property at the address you described, and it is primarily, well, the only access to the property at time is along 5490 South, which is a private street currently. Mr. Buller wishes to develop this property in the future, and not in a rural residential fashion, but in a single family residential fashion, and so he's proposing to amend the land use map from very low density, which would be would only allow up to 2 units per acre, to a low density residential would allow just over 3 units per acre. And this is a little better aerial showing where it's located. It's located on the east side of 5490. The new Smiths would be up on this corner. And then there's a road to the east, 7530 South, which has been some of the point of contention at the Planning Commission meeting regarding this map amendments. Now, I know that we're not necessarily discussing design, but we do require a concept plan with all land use map amendments and zone changes, and this is the configuration or the development that Mr. Bowler is proposing at this time. All of the lots are much larger than 12,000 square feet. In fact, they're pushing the half-acre limit. His proposal at this time is, or his proposal, if he subdivides, would be to come out 7530 south with not only a road connection but also sewer. There's adequate water supply on 5490, but any sanitary sewer would be going east down through this development. This is an overall, and with the 5490 area was slated at the time that the last general plan was approved as a area that required small area plans to govern development, but it didn't give much direction on what we wanted to see. And so Mr. Bowler has came up with a concept plan for what he wants to do for his properties, both on the east and west side of 5490. Now, with the zone change, it was one of the criteria or the findings is, are there adequate utilities to service development in the area? It was discovered, or it was brought to our attention, that any sewer connection to the east down these roads was inadequately served, or was at capacity, and it was because of a connection down closer to 7800 south. Now, our engineering department has done an analysis and determined that if this connection was upsized by the developer, not the city, to a larger diameter pipe, that this much area, which is 5, 10, 15, about 25 acres, could be handled in that sewer line with this minor upgrade. Now, the applicant and many of the people along 5490 have been told that eventually the 5490 issue is going to have to be addressed. When this subdivision does come in, if the zoning is approved, then of course Mr. Bowler will be required to dedicate his portion and put improvements along 5490. I know that doesn't in kind of a piecemeal fashion, but that is the way that we're trying to control development along 5490. If, when the subdivision comes through, he will also have to talk to the city or get city approval to cross this. This is not a sub-street, but is rather a landscaped area that was put in with this development. Now, I know I'm bringing up a lot of things that are not necessarily land use related or zoning, but I believe they're all interrelated. These will all be items that will be ironed out and worked out as the subdivision process goes forward, if the land use map and zoning is corrected. So at this point, the findings of the land use map and the criteria for the zone change have been met. And so staff is recommending approval. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this land use map amendment and zone change on a meeting earlier in October. So do you have any questions for me at this point?
Questions from council? Councilmember Southworth.
I do. If you could go back to those lots there.
This one or a couple more?
Yeah, that's good. Or the one previous to this is fine. This is an R112. You said these are pushing the upper limit almost to a half acre.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify something, but the rural residential zone requires a half acre, correct?
20,000. I don't think we have a true half acre. It's now a RR20 zone, so it's a 20,000 square foot lot.
Okay. Do you know the numbers? I can't read those on the report there.
I think that the largest one is about 27,000 and the smallest one is about 21,000 square feet. So they're over the 20,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
They're well over the 12,000 square feet, so.
So, well, let me go a little bit further. So in your opinion, this could be zoned as part of the rural residential?
If that's
If
what.
that's what the applicant would like to do, it could
Yes,
meet that
yes.
requirement. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Other questions? Thanks, Larry. We'll now open the public hearing of item 7B. I have two signed up to speak. The first will be Will Garbina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I live at 7298 South, 5490 West, just down the road from this proposed development. And I'm here to speak in opposition. 6 months ago, my wife and I moved into that house, and we love it. There's farm fields, there's pasture land, horses, cattle. One of my neighbors, the one that would be under all of those houses, is a farmer. And he has cattle and sheep and pigs and goats and turkeys, and it's really nice. He even gets school kids come out and visit. And he does hay rack rides, things like that. Just a couple months ago, this body allowed him to change so he could have a dairy farm on his property, just across the street. So to allow him to have a dairy farm and then to allow a subdivision to go in seems incompatible, seems inconsistent. And it also raises some other concerns. First and foremost, it runs counter to the goals that this body came up with. You guys have your council goals, 2014, 2015 implementation plan. And in order of how you guys determined their priority, you said goal number 1, parks, trails, and open space. Open space is not just public land. It's not just parks. It's farmland. It's horse properties. It's pastures. Why did you folks set that goal? Out of civic pride. An opportunity to stand out from the rest of the valley. Looking across the valley, Wheeler Farms at some point got spared from development. At some point, the city council made a tough decision, said no to a developer, and said, we need a break in all the housing. And that's what you need here. Goal number 3 that you folks identified dealt with land use. And you stated, imagine a West Jordan where we engage stakeholders to lower densities. Lower densities, not higher densities. In addition to standing by your goals, you're charged with observing the law, of course. And I have a very serious concern that this is spot zoning. To take that one little piece of that 100-acre swath and say these people are going to get special treatment and they're going to be able to develop at a greater density gives me grave concern. Another concern I have legally is whether the applicant, whether you have a proper application before you. The applicant was submitted by a developer, not the landowner. Section 21.2 of the zoning ordinance provides that the applicant has to be an owner, or when there are joint owners, that you have to have a majority interest. You don't have that before you. Out of time. I hope you'll give that serious consideration. I hope you will not allow the rezoning in question. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett Bergen?
I'm Brett Bergen. Thanks for letting me speak for a second. So I have the property that's just to the east of that development. And if we kid ourselves, everything's going to be developed. So I think it's a good plan. It's a good development. The only thing I would ask that you would take into consideration is I don't understand why we need to connect to anything else. I think we need to be consistent with the neighborhood as it is, because to the south of that is 3 cul-de-sacs, and they don't connect to anything. They're their separate own cul-de-sacs. This would be a nice cul-de-sac without the north-south roads. There's no reason to connect it to anything that doesn't exist. And, you know, Tim's, who is to the south of that, can have his own cul-de-sac if he sells, and to the north of that could eventually end up on the private lane. And it's 10 acres anyway. So I think it would be a cleaner deal if we let them have bigger lots and get rid of the roads that go north and south. I think also that there's a little green belt that goes to the east of the lot there on the south. The city, it's about 10, 15 feet wide. That would be pointless to keep, either sell it to the developer so you can move that up into it so it's consistent with the neighborhood as well. And again, I think the half-acre lots, the 40,000 or the 20,000 square foot lots are great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item? Yeah, please come forward. State your name and address, please.
My name is Spencer Burt. I live on 5360 West, just a little bit south of that property. I've lived in the neighborhood for 14 years, the first house in the development. Actually work in Clearfield. I love West Jordan. I've commuted for 9 years to Clearfield. I want to stay in West Jordan. I've been waiting for a larger piece of property to come available so that I could build. And so I am in favor of the development. The way that it is proposed, obviously I would love a cul-de-sac, something consistent with what has already been done. But I would like to stay in West Jordan, and there aren't many half-acre lots available in West Jordan, and that is the one thing that would keep me here in West Jordan. So, thank you.
Thank you. Please.
I'm Alexandra Ephraimo, 3735 Judd Circle. I've been advocating, and here we go again. 2 years ago, we were saying, let's keep low density. Now here's an area here where we have where we can breathe. And so why not keep it at 1 acre lots? I live on 1/3 of an acre. And it's okay for me, but however, all my other neighbors are on 1/3 or a little bit less. But I think when we have an opportunity, such as in this area, to maintain 1 acre lots, let's keep it 1 acre lots. And I don't know, I was driving around, I couldn't believe it. There were houses, and there were about 4 feet between these houses. The developer had, I don't know how anyone could even walk through those. And this was not in West Jordan, it was in Salt Lake County, but I couldn't believe it. We have an opportunity to maintain this area under 1 acre lots. Let's keep it 1 acre lots. There are other places in West Jordan that have 1/3 acre, they have 1/2 acre, but in this particular area, I say no, let's keep it at 1 acre lots. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Jeremy Sorensen. I am a resident of West Jordan my whole life. I grew up here and I have lived in West Jordan my entire life. I live on 7534 South, 6670 West in West Jordan, which is about 2 miles west of where this development is. I'm here as a personal favor. The first commenter had commented on the farm that is close by. The operator of that farm is my best friend. We've been best friends since high school, and we love that there is a farm there. We love that they have the open space, and as was commented, that they do allow for schools and for church groups and anybody to go by and enjoy the operation that they have there, and they do provide an excellent service to the community. I am in favor of this development, though, because the current zoning, and it would fit perfectly where this proposal is to connect into the existing neighborhood there. Where I live, we are on eighth of an acre lots. It's highly congested. I do believe that having a half-acre development or even down to a 1/4 acre, which these proposals are larger than that, but it does allow for more freedom, more space, and that is something that we have struggled with in our neighborhood. Parking is horrendous. There are a number of challenges, and I've lived in my current home for 11 years now, similar to Mr. Burt that commented. We were one of the first homes in the neighborhood and have fought other rezones in our neighborhood, and thankfully we were able to get lower density approved, and there are a number of homes going in around us now. And what a great event that has been, because it has helped to increase property values. There's just a general feeling of open space that is available. But again, this does help to fit the current zoning, and it matches what the existing neighborhood is. If this were a comment on 5490 West as a whole, yes, there's going to be need for a better master plan development for that entire street and the private dwelling there. But where this fits in perfectly with the existing neighborhood, I don't see any reason why not to approve this rezone. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chad Shepik. I live on 7105 South, Case Mountain Cove. Mr. Mayor, council members, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm in favor of this proposal. It doesn't affect me personally. I live directly north of this. My part of the neighborhood is on the east side of 5490's properties. I think having a half-acre lot and having the abilities to have some space, possibly having some animals, is a great benefit. And I'm grateful that I was able to secure a lot of that size and have an opportunity to have a little space. It does fit in perfectly with how the development just south of there has already been established, and that's proven itself to be successful. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Tippett. My address is 7157 South Tico Drive. I live directly north and east of this proposed development. So I'm not directly impacted by it, but I think it sets a good tone for perhaps future development that will affect closer to where I live. I'm in favor of this proposed layout and rezone. I think that connectivity is important to a neighborhood, and the layout I'm also in favor of for that reason. This layout would allow access to schools and churches and parks that are already in existence, and I think it would set a nice tone for perhaps future development of the private road of 5490 West and the 5-acre lots. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Billy Smith. I live on 7583 South, 5360 West, so it's right on that street. I'm in favor of that also. I built my house on that street 13 years ago, not knowing I would need a bigger lot, but now I would really enjoy a bigger lot. So I am in favor for that. I'd like to see a cul-de-sac, but that's up to the developer. But I am in favor for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Mayor and council, appreciate you giving of your time tonight to hear my application. I'm Randy Bowler, reside at 6663 South, 2200 West in West Jordan. Been there 41 years. Hope to have another 40 there. So, as I mentioned, I represent the application tonight. Don't know that I have new information. This is a piece of property that we have the opportunity to purchase, and you know, I guess I must like putting myself in conflicting circumstances because we also own the property on the west side of the street where we have our farm. And so some nights I come here with my farm hat on, and some nights I come here with my developer hat on. And tonight I'm here as a developer, likewise protecting the interests of the farm. This particular piece of property is a piece of property that does not fit into our farm operation. Otherwise, that's what we would do with it for a few years yet. I feel like it's time for it to develop, and I think the proposal, the land use, density, and street layout would fit that piece of property well. And recognizing that as time goes on, that all of that vacant property, including our farm, will eventually develop. And I think that this application represents a good beginning land use for that corridor on both sides of 5490 West. So I would just ask if you had any questions for me.
Questions of the applicant? Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you, Randy. I do have a question to go back to the rural residential question. It sounds like the lots as proposed fit within that rural residential zoning. I know there could be a concern because you are looking for R112 as the bottom, the floor, but it looks like you're proposing for something more, but you don't want to tie your hands. But if we're confident and comfortable that it would fall within those 20,000 square foot, would you be opposed to this also having a rural residential designation along with it?
There's probably some advantage that you can't read the square footage of the lots on the plat. Let me help you with those.
I cannot read them.
Yeah. And that wasn't by my design that you couldn't read them. But
Sure.
Some of those lots are smaller, going down into 13,000 to 14,000 square feet. So some of them are significantly smaller than a half acre. Some are larger, and partly because of the layout and the stub streets is how that best we can get it laid out. So I think to set a pattern of development for that corridor, to me an R112 would be a good zoning and a good density. And even though I'm an agricultural man and we've got the farm across the street, I think a logical development as that corridor begins to develop would be an R112, which I don't think would allow the rural residential.
Okay. And the reason I ask is directly to the east, if you take the upper right-hand corner of what we're looking at, directly to the east are 1 acre lots that you're very familiar with. There's a few of them run along that property line. Rural residential, excellent. We'll get to the, right there. 5330 south, everything north of that is rural residential. 1 acre lots until you can get those two cul-de-sacs, and you see in the very top right hand of this picture, you get into half acre, and that continues rural residential all the way to 70th south. And the concern I have is as we set a development pattern, if we do not have rural residential up against these, then we create a little bit of a friction, with non-rural residential, residential. 5490 to me looks like a pretty natural area, or I guess a zone there where we could transition out of that. As you cross 5490, then you go to maybe the R112 without the rural residential zoning, just to create a process or an opportunity where we don't have that friction in the future. And that's why I'm asking the question, because I see that as potential, because it happens elsewhere, and I see that as a potential. As we set, the concern I have is we set the pattern of where we're going to go in the future. I want to make sure we get it right the very first, and this is our first shot at it. Two, now let me go to the south of your property here. I think that makes sense, a lot of sense, right there, not to have the rural residential, because now you're butting up against homes that don't have that, and that's a great transition. And so that's the reason for my question. I don't know if we could make that. I don't know if maybe the upper right-hand corner of it is. I don't know the answer here, but that's the concern I have moving forward, looking future forward. trying to avoid those points of friction. That's just a comment. I don't have the answer there, and I know this is not a good opportunity. You get to a council meeting, this is not the place to do this, and I apologize for putting you on the spot like this. But
Well, I appreciate your comments. Again, as we look for future development, not only on this property, but in that entire corridor area, I still think that an R112 is a very compatible, good use density for the area. And in the meantime, those that have animal rights and have animals, and I'm one of those, probably the major animal user out there, will be okay with the development as it goes forward.
And I absolutely 100% agree, and I'm ready to vote in favor of this thing tonight. As this sets, it's kind of a transitional piece. It's got 1 foot in the residential side and 1 foot out, and I think it's the perfect transitional piece. And what you proposed, I think is just excellent. Maybe it can be better if one half was rural residential and the other was not, and then that's right where the dividing line is. I don't know that we could do that, but if not, I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
Thank you.
Other questions, Council? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Eddie. Councilmember Nichols. Oh, after you. Yeah. Sorry. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
Good evening. Name is David Barber. I live on 7411 South, 5490 West. My property, the house that you see just north of this proposal, is mine. I have that 10 acres north of there, and I would just like to voice my opinion that I'm in favor of this rezoning. 8 years ago, we had a big development taking all of this in at 1/4 acres, nothing new. It should have been passed at that time, but the economy went bad. That's the only thing that prevented it then. The people who lived there at that time are the same people who live there now, to the east, to the north. The neighbors that I talked to there, none of them have said anything as far as a complaint to me about what's going on with Mr. Boulder's development. So that's the information that I have for you.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Mike Canning. I live at 5343 West, 7530 South. I actually live on I think I'm the only one that has talked that lives on the road that will access this development. I have a couple concerns. I don't have a problem with the development itself. The only concern I have that I want to voice prior to, because you can't tell a developer what to do once he's changed it, is I don't want it to be a corridor. I don't want it to be a corridor into everything else. We live on that corner, and I just don't want it. I know it's a proposal of the off streets, but I can see it as developing from there and where that corner is. So you would come off, off there. I don't want a ton of traffic going up that road, even if I lived in the development. Because if you have that north-south road right there, all it's going to do is open for more development, and the only way through that is not off the private road, but is up my street. But I do think the development is a good idea as a cul-de-sac, but not as a corridor into future development, maybe more consistent of the things to the south of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will close the public hearing of item 7B and turn to the council. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to staff. I don't know if this is Wendell or Larry. Someone could help out. You showed a map with the sewer. It showed the limitations of the sewer. I just wanted to point out, this is just full disclosure, that red circle is my house.
I'm sorry.
Now, the issue that we're weighing tonight, and I can say that I have no heartache one way or the other, is we're not deciding on the development tonight, just a zoning issue. So I've got no issues, there's no one thing or the other, but that is a concern when it comes time for development. So I just wanted to put that out there. Number two is, I wanted to ask about that. Did we check into the storm drain as well? Because you know I'm very well in tune with the storm drain problem in that same circle. Would this potentially, and again, this is not part of the zoning, this is just, I'm just thinking, have we checked into that already? Would this development potentially lead into that same storm drain system?
The storm drainage wouldn't be impacted by that development. The sewer line is, we would have to upgrade that from an 8 to a 10. There's only about 170 feet that we'd have to replace.
And the reason for that is otherwise there would be almost 2,000 feet having to be placed on 5490 as opposed to the existing system.
All right. Thank you very much. Different thought. Wanted to just discuss the compatibility. I'm a little bit. I guess I could kind of go either way on this, because when you look at existing land use, you've got current zoning to the north and south or rural residential, and this is just kind of getting forced in between there. But then when you look at future land use, future land use says we want this to go to the east is to be medium density residential, which is essentially what it is, R110 right now, which makes it very compatible, adjacent to each other. So I like the idea of what we're trying to do in that we're trying to keep it at R112. I think if we were to push it to R110, I'd absolutely be opposed to it. R112, I think, serves us nicely. It's just, there's that one little bit of rural residential. I think it's in line with what Councilmember Southworth has mentioned, is that try to preserve that as much as you can, at the same time have the reality of knowing there needs to be some kind of a natural buffer. And maybe eventually when the plan comes back, that could even be part of the plan, that the higher densities on the south end of the lot, a little lower on the north side of it. I mean, what we saw here is a concept. When it comes back, it will look completely different. I think everyone should realize that. I do express some concern as well with the through street. I like the idea of a cul-de-sac. Not to say that's a deal breaker for me, but that's just something that comes to mind. Anyway, at this point, I just wanted to express some thoughts there and get some questions out. Thank you.
Thanks. A motion would be in order. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I was going to share some comments first.
Okay, please.
I understand the questions about compatibility with some of the adjoining properties. Personally, my preference would have been R114 instead of R112. I think R112 is the lowest I'd be willing to go, but I would still be okay with that. And number two, I wanted to underscore the comments made by Mr. Bergen, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Canny regarding the street layout. I won't say too much about that since we're not discussing the site plan, rather just the zoning. But I'm not necessarily sold on the idea of trying to connect into the existing neighborhood to the east. The other thing that gives me a little bit of concern is if this parcel were to be developed on its own, I get really nervous with stub streets that are intended to be tied into later. My neighborhood, we've got a number of stub streets that uses have changed since the development was originally there. You've got stub streets that go right up into a brick wall behind Target at 70th and Redwood. You have stub streets in that mobile home park, or the mobile home park just north of Heartland Elementary, where they're stubbing up into a chain link fence. You also have that over by Stock Building Supply off of 13th and 78th. So I get really nervous with the stub streets, and I think I would prefer to see something like a cul-de-sac, like was described earlier, rather than the stub streets in there. But again, we're not looking at a site plan, we're just looking at zoning, and I can support what's been proposed tonight.
Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you. You know, the one thing I'm going to go back to that concern, actually, let me go to the one that's showing right here. And I guess a question to Wendell, when do we anticipate improvements on that, the repeated flooding that takes place within the circle from the storm drain? Is there an opportunity to put these together, or is that too far out?
I think that's too far out at this point. We don't know that yet.
Okay, just curious if there was an opportunity that the city and the developer, if we could work together to accomplish both designs. I think that's a great opportunity to take advantage of. We could fix the both of them at the same time. Anyway, let me go back to this rural residential thing, and again, not to harp on this, but I'm going to. I think this is the place where the transition should take place, and create this buffer zone right here from east to west, and then to 5490 all the way up to 70 south, and protect what is there. And I don't know if I described that well, but if possible, you know, maybe half of this is rural residential on one side of the street, and the other half is not. And that creates and sets the tone for future development east of 5490, which is that private road, which would then back all the existing rural residential all the way to 70 south. Everything south and to the west on 5490 could, as you've seen in the concepts, those drop down to smaller lots. Still good-sized lots, but they're smaller than these. And that's really something I think would be in the best interest of the city, of these residents, long-term. With that said, we're looking at potentially half acre, and that really is the exception in today's developing world. And not only that, we're looking at this hasn't even been said here tonight, an R112, and did anybody see what's at the very end of that 12? An F-size home. That's awesome. You know, that's not happening. So this is the exception to what we see, and I think we need to do something exceptional here. And I would be in favor of this, with a caveat. I'd like to see maybe we split this, and that might not be possible, but I'm really concerned that we're setting ourselves up for some really some problems in the future where we start to have this friction between land use types. So with that said, that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I move based on our conversation this evening, City Council amend the future land use map as designated in the packet from very low density to low density residential and rezone 5.01 acres from rural residential to R112F.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Southwood.
Sorry, I forgot to mention in our general plan, we have goal number 4, I think was actually even commented on, is to encourage a diversity of dwelling type units and densities in residential areas as we move forward, maybe to our planning department. Our implementation measures, number 4 says preserve established rural residential and residential estate neighborhoods and prevent encroachment of incompatible uses in these areas. And so as we move forward, I don't know that if this is the place to start, but as we move forward, I would just make that comment that we look closely at preserving and to work against that encroachment of these incompatible uses. Thank you.
I just have one comment. I will be supporting the motion. I believe that a 12,000 square foot lot with a F-size home is much more desirable than a rural residential home of the D-size home on it. So I will be supporting the motion specifically because of that. Let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes, I am in favor of this motion. I would prefer to have seen the F14, but I will go with the 12 if that's what they're asking for. Thank you. Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Public hearing item 7C, This item has been continued from October 14, 2015. Receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 15-32, amending the 2009 West Jordan Municipal Code 13-5B-7 to allow swine in rural residential zones, subject to the limitations of the animal point system. Citywide applicability, City of West Jordan. Applicant, David Oka.
Scott Langford will address this issue.
Okay.
Mayor, members of the council, I appreciate the time to talk about this. I'll give a brief summary. Back in August, the council directed staff to take a look at this issue, and we have done so. We've looked at what other cities have done. We've also conducted field research and online research to see how swine, if we allow swine in rural residential zones, how that may impact our neighborhoods. And the previous item talked about friction and so forth between land uses, and so we've analyzed that. This is a text amendment which will affect every rural residential zone in the city. So just as a matter of context, a brief analysis of that particular land use, we're looking at about a little over 5.5% of the city's land use. So highlighted there in the brown are all the zones, are all the rural residential properties that are currently zoned. The current code talks about the animal point system. I can go into that if you choose, but I'll kind of skip over just a few elements of that. Basically, you get 20 animal points per 10,000 square feet of lot. And there are a few exceptions kind of baked into the existing language. It excludes or does not include offspring for large and medium-sized animals, subject to those parameters there. This is the way the current table reads right now, where you have large animals demanding or requiring 17 points per animal. You have your medium-sized animals, but at this point it excludes the standard-sized pig, and then you have the smaller-sized animals. So the original request from the council was to look at possibly including pigs as a large animal, or comparing them to horses and cows. So again, we've did a little bit of analysis and research, and what we found through our analysis, and in particular the public hearing that we had with the Planning Commission, the public that commented, and the commissioners' comments, we've basically tweaked the original request a little bit, and you'll see that change in the staff report here tonight, where we feel it's more appropriate to lump these particular animals, the swine, with a medium-sized animal, with goats and sheep. They're more congruent with what you'd see as far as size, manure production, so forth. So I want to also make a quick note that this particular ordinance does not occur or stand alone. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are existing standards in our city ordinances that provide a level of protection and support that may address potential misuse of animal rights in the city. Regardless of what the council does tonight, we have these other provisions that talk about nuisance, the housing of animals in section 13.8 3D, and then Title VI is our animal control portion of the code that talks about additional protective measures, that if you're keeping an animal in an unsafe situation, letting them run free through the neighborhood, for example, we can cite for things like that. So let's get to the proposed amendment. The main language will remain the same. The only change would be to the table, and again, including swine as a medium-sized animal, with some certain restrictions noted here in note number 1. It says, notwithstanding the number of points per animal, the size of the property there shall be no more than 2 swine per lot, including offspring. Breeding and birthing of swine is expressly prohibited. As we conducted a research, we wanted to mitigate the potential impact to incongruent or other properties. Nuisance is one thing, safety is another thing to take into consideration. As we looked into the keeping of swine, it became evident that if you have a sow with piglets, that mother pig becomes very protective. And if you have a sow that is actually giving birth, that's a fairly large animal, pushing 400 pounds. That's basically like could be compared to an angry mother bear. You don't want a neighborhood kid jumping into a pen and having that situation happen. So those are some of the reasons why we've included the no offspring requirement. The capping at 2 swine per lot also mitigates the potential impact of dust and smell and those types of things. So those are some considerations that we used in looking at this text amendment. So with that, we ask the council to consider these things and any public comment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council? Looks like you're done. Thanks. We'll now open the public hearing of item 7C. If you're here to speak on this subject, now would be the time. Yes. Please state your name again for the record and address.
My name is Chad Shepik, 7105 South, Case Mountain Cove. Mr. Mayor, council members, I again appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. I'm in favor of this change. I live on a half-acre property that is rural residential. I would love to have the opportunity to have different types of animals on my property. I currently have a sheep and a calf, and would love to try this other type of animal. I do know that they do have a bad name. I have relatives that have raised these types of animals, swine, and properly taken care of, they're no different than a cow or a horse. I think that's something that we need to remember is anything, any animal has odor, and if not properly taken care of, it could create a challenge. I do believe that the nuisance ordinance already addresses those types of things. So very much support this change to allow us to have the opportunity to, on our property, grow those animals, provide food for our families and opportunities for our children to participate in this type of raising of animals. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yes.
Matt Tippett, 7157 South Tico Drive. I live on a rural residential half-acre lot, and with my family, primarily my children, we've been raising cattle. We typically have a couple of cattle at a time, and a small flock of chickens as well. We have greatly appreciated the opportunity in our family to raise farm animals, both from an economic standpoint and from an educational / experience position for myself and for my family, for my kids in particular. It's been a good experience for them and for myself to be able to raise farm animals. So I'd like to thank the council and thank West Jordan for that opportunity. I'm in favor of this proposal to allow swine as well. The only comment I would make would be to not limit the lots to 2 swine, but to use the current point system that's in place. If we count them as a medium-sized animal, they would count as 8 points. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexandra Framer, 3735 Judd Circle. You know, I'm excited. This is really showing West Jordan to have an open mind. And, you know, I love coming down 90th South going east. There's a place there that they have sheep. And then, but apparently, in the spring, they're black. They're little black ones that are so cute. And then as time goes on, you can see them as they're growing up, but totally black. And then, of course, then they turn beige. But I think it is educational. I think that we have some schools here that are Title I schools, which are low-income schools. I wonder how many of those kids ever see a swine. And maybe some of the people that have swine would be open to once in a while have some kids or Boy Scouts come and visit. But I would like to see a change in, I know you're saying no mother pigs, but I don't know why not. Why can't one of the swine have little ones? You know, at the state fair, people love to see those little baby pigs, and they're very smart. I mean, we have, you know, on TV, it does show how smart the swine can be, and they are pets in many homes. I mean, where the swine comes in the home. But I would like to see a readdressing it to allow maybe one mother to have a litter, and then that would help economically for the person with that acreage, and they have the thing. But at this time, I guess I heard that you're not going to allow any offsprings, but I would like to have you all reconsider, because I think it would help economically, even if you had the swine, to go ahead and sell the babies and give the money to Majestic Elementary. That's a Title I school, along with Heartland. But I think they'd love to come up and see the little piglets. But anyway, I'm excited about it. I think it's really showing we have an open area, and I do love to see. And there's one property on 9000 South that's a goat. I haven't seen him anymore, so I don't know if he passed away or not. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. I'm Brett Bergen, 5331 Laurel Hill Circle. I didn't say that last time. I apologize. I'm in favor of this. I think I kind of feel it should go with the point system. Absolutely no breeding of any pigs. We don't want, because the pigs can have 12, 16 in a litter. So I think you're good that way if you just limit it to a point system. Absolutely no offspring, and make sure that they clean up after them. I don't see why we wouldn't pass it. So thank you.
Randy Bowler, 6663 South, 2200 West. I'm here tonight as a farmer, rancher. I want to use my farmer logic and math with you for a minute. If we're saying we're comfortable with 2 swine on half acre, and half acre's been defined tonight as a 20,000 square foot lot, and so we have a half acre and we take maybe 8,000 square feet of that for the home and yards. So we're putting 2 swine on 12,000 square feet. And then we go to an acre lot, and we now have over 40,000 square feet, and we're still going to restrict that to 2 swine. And also under the rural residential, there are 5 acre lots, and so now we have 5 times 43, 560. We have over 800,000 square feet. And we're only going to put 2 swine on. And so my logic would tell me that if we're fine with 2 on a half, we ought to be okay with 4 on an acre, which really is going to provide more space for the swine, because on that second 20,000+ square feet, you're not taking any of that out for a house or yards. And likewise, when you go to a 5 acre lot. So I would think that you would just interpolate those numbers in proportion to the lot size. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close 7C, the public hearing, and return to the council. Councilmember Southworth.
Yeah, I have just a quick comment. The pigs are fine and all, but I just can't figure out why we have chinchillas on this chart. It's still, I don't know. Anyway, somebody must be raising chinchillas somewhere that we need to have them on there. But that just is, don't remove it because it's something to chuckle at every time we see it. So just leave it there. Makes it a little bit lighthearted. But I just wanted to state that I'm in favor of this. I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, a few years back, we went down this road. We rearranged, kind of reorganized the numbers here. Because it was odd the way we had it. We were really off kilter. You know, like a handful of chickens was the same amount of points as a horse. You know, and you could take those chickens and put them in a small box, and the horses just, the amount of waste and everything and the space, and it was really just off kilter. And we changed that. And I think this is really the logical next step. It makes sense in my mind to have a swine as a medium-sized animal. You know, I'm okay with the limit of 2 to see how this works out. I'm okay with saying that it should be the same as, you know, just say it's the medium-sized animal, and there you go. Maybe there's not birthing, you know, the breeding and birthing makes me a little bit nervous, I'll just be honest, but that's my own ignorance coming through. But just, it makes sense to me. What this is about, and the way it is written, is this is not about commercial production. This is not about making money. This is 4-H and dinner table projects. That's really what this is. 4-H and dinner table projects. And that's what the intention is. So that somebody, and from my own experience, so I raised sheep, and the funnest time is in the spring, when the little lambs come. My kids go out there, and the little lambs are sucking their thumbs, and not the lamb's thumbs, they're the kids' thumbs. And they don't have thumbs, right? So, and it's so much fun, and we raise those, and then eventually they fulfill their purpose, and they go to the butcher, and they come back in nice little packages, and there's some satisfaction in knowing that that animal was raised, and you had a hand in that. And that's what this is about, 4-H and dinner table projects. And to allow something like that is just a neat thing in our city. And I am in favor of this. One thing, swine have a bad reputation. Somebody had mentioned it, and I will tell you that dogs can and do smell more than a pig can if they are not cared for. My own 2 dogs, if the kennel's not cleaned by my son, can start to produce quite the smell. And a pig is similar. It can as well. And a pig, like a dog, probably more like a cat, will go to the same place. They like to find their spot. My sheep, they're pretty dumb. They'll stand right over their water bucket and do whatever they need to do right into it, and then turn around and drink out of it. And the pig's not the way. The pig is a lot cleanlier of an animal. You know, and so I don't know how they get that reputation. Maybe we should give that reputation to these crazy sheep. But anyway, I think this makes a lot of sense. I would encourage the council to vote for this, and thank you.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you. I am not against people having swine, but I would prefer to see it in an agricultural zone. You can have a half-acre lot or a half-acre subdivision adjacent to an 8,000 lot subdivision. And these people have 2 swine. I lived on a farm for 7 years. Believe me, when a mother gives birth, you don't want to be near that sow because she will kill you. And I'm not exaggerating, she will kill you. They're mean when they are giving birth. So I do agree with no birthing of the swine, because if you had a child come in and get excited and get in that pen, that child would be dead. I live on an acre. I do not want swine on my acre. That's my choice. And if this passed, I still wouldn't have swine on my acre of ground. But I just believe it belongs more in an agricultural zone and not in a rural residential, due to the fact that it can be close to homes that are not allowed to have these animals, and we don't have the animal control people nor the code enforcement people to take care of these problems. So I'm against it being in the RR zone. I'd rather see it in the agricultural zone.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Went to visit my grandma a couple days ago and brought my little 2-year-old boy. And she was reminding me of when I was little, we'd go over to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and we'd go out back, and they had the pig, and they had the cow, they had a couple sheep out there, and she was laughing at our little 2-year-old boy, talking about how when I was that size, I could make pig noises before I could talk from being out there with Grandpa's pig. So I have a lot of fond memories of those animals, and I have no objection to adding them in the code to allow them in rural residential. I think what's been proposed would be okay to start with to see how it goes for a while. I would also be okay eliminating that no more than 2 per lot. I kind of think we have the point system for a reason. I think we should let that run. If there were concerns with that, I'd even be okay including them perhaps at the large animal point rating, if we were to remove that limitation of 2 per lot. The other limitations I'm okay leaving, but either way, either of those 3 options. If there's consensus to allow it as written, I'd support that, or with those modifications suggested.
I have been in agriculture my entire life. I've raised swine, and I am against adding them to rural residential zones. I think there's a reason that West Jordan had the code written the way it was. I think changing this will cause more complaints than any other thing we could do on a rural residential piece of property. I believe they are totally fine in an agricultural zone, but on a 20,000 square foot lot, there isn't anyone on this dais that would like to live next to swine.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. I respect that opinion, but I'd like to mention that I live in rural residential. I live on a half acre, and I tell you, this happens today. Raising, in fact, I was talking to a neighbor who was telling me a story about they had 2 and nobody knew. Their neighbors did not know. They had no clue till the day they took them out. Because when you take them out, they're squealing. Hey, you have pigs? Yeah, we didn't know that. And that's intentionally. We understand that, and that's why it's intentionally said no more than 2. We don't want to put 1 in there by itself. They're a social animal. Have 2 of them. There is no breeding, no birthing, and really that's and I guess the Councilman Hanson would appeal to you there. If you're willing on the river residential, just let's keep it as is. No more than 2. We don't want to have. We had somebody come in recently talking about chickens and saying, great, you have chickens, but I've got somebody with 3 acres behind me and they have so many chickens, it's a farm. Well, we don't want that situation. We want to limit it to 2. Like I said, it'll have no more impact than 2 dogs in somebody's backyard, and we'll let them have more than 2 dogs. Very honestly, I've seen it. This is not a farm situation again. We're not doing this for commercial production. It's 4-H and dinner table projects, and that's it. And it's very specifically written to really restrict it to that. And so I'd appeal to you there and ask if maybe there'd be some reconsideration there before we go to a vote. Thank you.
More discussion or a motion would be in order.
Motion?
Councilmember Southwood.
I would move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe?
No.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Southworth.
Aye.
Vote passes 3-2. Sorry.
No, hold on. Let me change my vote. No.
Vote fails 2-3.
And if I could, Mayor,
Please, Councilmember Southworth.
if I could ask that this item be put on the next council meeting for reconsideration.
So it'll be placed on the council as a business item, not a public hearing. Okay. Can we have a motion for just a 5-minute break? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. 5 minutes only, please. hear from it. Oh, really? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Business item 8A, report and update on the City of West Jordan's fiscal year 2015-2016. First quarterly report. Ryan.
You've had the quarterly report for about, 2 weeks now, or a little more. So I'm just here to address any questions you have in regards and hear comments about the new format, whether you like it or you don't. So.
I must say that I am majorly impressed, the difference between 2 years ago and today. So again, I'll state that. I only had one question, Ryan.
Yes.
And that is on the ambulance service.
Yes.
Could you update us on that, please?
Yes, about 2 days after I put out this report, we got another large amount of ambulance fees come in. So that is moving up, and that will, that projection would be a lot closer to where we're looking budgetarily right now than it was at that day. So we did get some extra ambulance revenue come in at that point, almost doubling what we had. So we're in good shape with that.
Thank you. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple requests for me. Number one, very much appreciate it being emailed out, but could this also be included as an attachment to the business item when we discuss it next time?
Okay. I didn't know that it wasn't attached, so.
Yeah, it's not included on the city website. No, it wasn't included on the city website. It was just included in the email. Or the other option is to include it on the city budget page where we have the final budget out there. It'd be nice to see all the quarterly reports, so all the budget stuff's in one location.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I'll work with Kim Wells tomorrow to get those posted.
Thank you. And then the second item, I've already talked to Mr. Palish about this one. But as we have these specific projects going on where we're allocating a certain amount of funding for the projects in advance, I'd really like to see a table that lists each one of those projects, the allocated amount, the cumulative amount of just any amendments. So if there was $1 million project, show the $1 million. If there was a $150,000 amendment plus a $300,000 amendment, I'd like to see that cumulative total of $450,000.
Yeah.
A column showing the number of total amendments, and then a actuals number for what the project actually ended up costing in the end, so that we can follow up a little bit better with these.
Yes, our city manager has emailed myself to begin working on that, and Wendell has asked that somebody put a meeting together so we can talk with Maureen, who does a lot of that tracking, and be able to develop that report, and we should have that for next quarter. That's our plan. So,
thank you.
No problem.
That's all.
Mayor? Please.
When we put the budget together for next year, you'll see not only more of a line item, but on each department, you'll see their major projects. They'll be prioritized, and you'll know which ones are in action or which are being held. When we do our monthly report, then you'll also see those on a follow-on, so you can see where that project is going, how much was spent so far, how far along it is, and then when it gets finally done, was it under or over budget? So I think you'll be able to follow things a lot faster that way.
Other comments or questions? You want to bet on where we finish up this year, Ryan?
I don't know. Didn't I
noticed that
win
you
last
added,
year? I can't remember.
I noticed you added a $1.4 million surplus, even though we were deficit.
Yeah, So I think we were both right on that one. So.
Anyone else need any questions from Ryan? Thank you. It's refreshing. I really appreciate it. That's the last item.
There's no second yet, I don't think.
Go ahead.
Just a quick comment, if I could, to Mark and staff here. I drive 5600 West every day, and I've noticed it's the same size street, clear through West Valley, all the in through West Jordan, but when you get to West Jordan, the speed limit changes from 45 in West Valley to 40 in West Jordan. I'm curious if we could just have our traffic engineer take a look at that. The difference is being West Jordan, there are no homes on it. And so I can't figure out why the lower speed limit in our city as opposed to the others. If we just look at that and see if that's actually warranted, do a traffic study from 62. It's not 62, it's a little bit, well, it might be. I think it's a little bit further south of 62 when our city picks up. Anyway, through the remainder of our city, if you wouldn't mind just seeing if that is something, if that should be at that speed limit, or maybe it should be bumped up to 45 to match the rest of the roadway.
We can do that. When we set our speed limits, we do our own calculations. It's not necessarily the way another city may do their calculations, falls within a certain grid. But we can look at that and see if it needs to be erased.
And probably chalk it up as a little bit of a pet peeve. I know that there's different things that go into it, but I think it's interesting if you look at Bangerter Highway through our city. As you go south, it's a lower speed limit. It's higher as you get south, but you go to Mountain View and it's the opposite. And I don't know. So somebody's flipping a coin somewhere, but anyway, if we could look at it.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just while we're on that same topic, if we, traffic engineer, that is, we have him take a look at the intersection 48th West and 78th South. Something changed in the last 3 months, and now it seems like about every 2 minutes it forces a full-on countdown crosswalk when no one's there, not even cars. No one shows up in about every 2 minutes. It's just giving the north and southbound lanes. Anyway, what's happening now is I used to get through there 3 out of 4 times. Now I'm getting through there with a green light probably 1 out of 4, and I thought 78 South should have better throughput than 48th West. Just something changed. I don't know what it was. Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Councilmember Hanson with a motion, a second with Councilmember Southworth. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.